Hi, everyone. Welcome back. This is the third episode of Valley Nordic in 2020. And today I'm very excited. We have a very special guest, somebody I respect and admire who has been very helpful in my startup journey, Howie Mandel. So,
Well, thank you. Hold for applause, please, Jack.
It's podcast. There's no, you won't hear it.
No, I don't have to hear it. I'm holding for it. I'm sure there are people listening right now in their cars and at home and on their laptops and on their phones. And I'm just waiting for the excitement and the cheering to die down. That's just you. That was you clapping. I could tell. All right. The applause has ended. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So most of our audience is in the Nordic countries and in India. So those of you don't know Howie, everybody knows Howie in the US. So in addition to being a comedian, which you can tell by now, he's an actor, anchor, producer, businessman. So in the tech world, we would call him a polymath, meaning he's good at many things. And the reason we have him as a guest is, to take you behind the scenes into Hollywood, because tech and Hollywood or entertainment industry are merging. So the startups that are trying to target Hollywood or be in the entertainment space, they will find Howie's insights very useful. Okay, let's get started. So can you give us a brief background, Howie? I remember your first job was a salesperson in Canada.
Or you want me to go back to before I was in this business?
Yes. How did you get into this business?
I was just in retail. I was a ne'er-do-well. I got asked to leave school. I had some behavioral problems. And at 17, I was kind of out on the street with no direction. And I happened to get a job in retail. And I was selling carpets. And I did really well at sales. And then that was like in the early to mid 70s. And at the time, disco was the rage. Everybody knows about Studio 54. I don't care where you are in the world, yeah. But the disco was pop culture, and that was the music, and that was everything. I personally don't go to clubs, don't really drink, don't dance. So I was not part of that culture at all. And lo and behold, I think about 76 or 77, a comedy club opened in my hometown. I'm from Toronto, Canada. And I went to see this because I had never seen stand-up comedy live. And the owner and the MC of the place, it's called Yuck Yucks in Toronto, said, if you have any aspirations to do this on Wednesday nights at midnight, you could get up and do this.
At midnight?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a little late for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think things seem funnier after midnight, even if they're not. I think when you're tired, if they don't laugh, you can assume. Anyway, so somebody at the table said, you should do it. And I said, okay. And part of the issue that I have in life and with my mental health is, which actually works for me and against me, is I kind of jump at opportunities without thinking of the ramifications, which I believe is turned into a philosophy of doing things and being successful. But I said yes. And in my mind, the yes and the funny was they were going to introduce me on stage, and I'm not a comedian. Do you see the joke there? I'm not a comedian, and yet they're going to introduce me, and I'm going to stand up without thinking what could happen. So Wednesday comes, no preparation, no nothing. And the guy goes, ladies and gentlemen, Howie Mandel. And I walk out on stage and I think, this is so funny because I'm not even a comedian. I have no aspirations to be a comedian. And then I look, and right in front of me, there are faces of strangers waiting patiently. And I thought the patience was going to wear thin for me to say something witty. And I had nothing. And I started getting really scared and nervous. And I started going, okay. Listen to, okay. And they started giggling because they noticed my nervousness. And that was contagious. And then I started going, what? And they started laughing at my nervous tension and not knowing where to go. I also have, I'm a germaphobe, and, I have obsessive compulsive disorder. So I carry rubber gloves with me. I couldn't think of what to do. My hands were in my pocket. I grabbed a rubber glove. I pulled it over my head. And when I was breathing through my nose, the fingers were going up and down. The crowd started roaring. It popped off. I ran off the stage. The owner chased me and said, that was great. Will you come back tomorrow? And I said, really? That was great. Okay, okay. And I came back the next day and kind of did the same thing. And then I thought, oh my gosh, this is a great club I was expelled from school. I didn't have any friends. I was this odd, weird kid who was dying for attention, but wasn't getting it. And I found this club where I didn't have to dance. I didn't have to drink. And I was surrounded by like-minded, off-kilter thinking people. Mm-hmm. And I was happy to do that 2 or 3 times a week. I happened to go down to California on a vacation, and a comic that I had met at Yuck Yucks from Detroit by the name of Mike Binder, who's like an Academy Award nominated director and writer. He did The Upside of Anger, and he was a great comic, stand-up comic at the time, said, I can get you in at the Comedy Store. So I went to the Comedy Store, and there happened to be a producer in the audience of a television show. And he hired me on the spot. And that was a great story to tell about my, you know, when I went back from my vacation, to say I played the Comedy Store and I taped a TV show. When the TV show aired, I started getting calls from other TV shows, and I would commute down to LA and do these TV shows. And then after one of the TV shows, Gene Simmons of Kiss fame calls me up and said, we just saw you on TV, me and my girlfriend. Pardon me?
Yeah, that's great. Carry on. Yeah.
Yeah. It said, my girlfriend and I just saw you on TV, and we think you're so funny, and she's looking for an opening act for her show in Las Vegas. Would you do it? And I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And who is your girlfriend? And he told me it's Diana Ross. People don't know. Simmons was living with Diana Ross. I became Diana Ross's opening act at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. And then I decided to leave traditional work, and I talked to my fiance, and we moved out here. And I just started, through my life and history in this business, I've been like just really open-minded and kind of like, even the way we met. I met you on a street. I didn't know you. Wasn't introduced to you from anywhere on a street. I was crossing the street in Miami, and we were there for a nap tea, and you said you got a good idea in technology. You explained it to me. I said, wow. And we have been friends, and we've been trying to set that technology up ever since. And I still haven't given up, but but that's just the way things happen, and you have to let things happen. And I believe in what Nike says, just do it. Mm-hmm. So even in Silicon Valley, if you have an idea and you think it's a good idea, just do it. Because I think the difference between the animal community and the human community is our instinct, and I think we have a powerful instinct as a human being that we override with overthinking. Mm-hmm. And I think we always know what a good idea is, and we always know what we should do. But if you take a second, and we all do it, and you think, but if I do that, what could happen? This could happen. And then you have your memory kicks in. Last time I tried something like this happened, so you don't. And I always use the philosophy that if you say no, I don't think it's a coincidence that N-O are the first 2 letters in nothing. So if you say no, nothing's going to happen. But if you say yes, something's going to happen. It may not be great, but if it turns out bad, then that might be a very good lesson. Mm-hmm. But if it turns out wonderful, you put one, and you got to think in increments and not the future. I'm not goal oriented. Mm-hmm. I'm moment oriented. I want to make this a moment. So if I want to put my left foot in front of my right foot, I do it. Yeah. And then if I feel like putting my right foot in front of my left foot, I do it. If I want to put my left foot again in front of my right foot, I do it. And somehow, if you keep doing that, you seem to get ahead, or you at least move to the other side of the room.
Yeah. You're living the, Hindu or Buddhist philosophy, or living in the moment. That's what they all preach, live in the moment.
Well, I try, and it's hard. It doesn't come instinctually. It comes out of a necessity for me to, because I have mental health issues, and I have, depression, anxiety, and obsessive compulsive disorder. All those lead you to obsess about something that happened, something that could happen, something that's scaring you, so I need to live in the moment. And there's nothing that makes me live on the moment like stand-up comedy, standing in front of thousands of strangers and having to entertain, or riding a roller coaster, where you're just in that moment. You can't think about others. And what I do is I try to, just keep myself as busy and as open and as distracted as I possibly can from my own inner dark demons.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, Howie. So now you are a star in Hollywood, and for people who are not familiar with how to convert an idea into a movie or a TV show, can you walk us through the process? Let's say you and I.
Well, we've had this discussion before. There isn't a process, and that's the beauty of what this. Well, let me just.
Okay, go ahead.
The point is, if you have an idea, there's so many different ways that idea can come to fruition. It could come in a very traditional idea where you have an idea and somebody with a lot of money. So regardless of whatever the marketplace is for this idea, you can make it because it's your own money and you have the autonomy and you could do it, or you have a friend that's going to give you money. I can't tell you how many films, and it's really evident today. That's what YouTube is. YouTube are people with ideas who are sitting in their bedroom in their underpants coming up with ideas and sharing it with the world. But that being said, this is a new Hollywood, because I can't tell you how many YouTube or short form or digital things that have just come out of somebody's room have become television series, have become ideas, have become movies. It just morphs into it. You don't know that it's going to become that, and people have just posted things, but that's where, people mine for ideas. And there are so many ways to put the other thing is to have an idea and then connect with the right people who can, aside from money, who can influence and get that done. So if you have a good idea and you convince a producer who has an overall deal at a studio where they're going to spend the hundreds of millions of dollars and they say that they want that to be their next project because you connected with them, then that's how that gets made, and then they'll get the money. The studio will put up the money for that. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes you're just connected to a piece of talent that they can't say no to. That's everybody wants to do something with Tiffany Haddish right now, a young female comic. If you get her to attach to your show idea, they're going to make your show because they want to be in business with Tiffany Haddish. Mm-hmm. Or the other idea is, now a lot of people are doing branded entertainment. If you find something that your partner can be a brand and they want to underwrite it, but then again, that's like the first example of going to somebody or having your own money to make it.
Okay. So let me draw some parallels to, how we do startups here in Silicon Valley versus what you just said. So in your world, studio is like a venture capitalist, meaning they are the ones usually put up the money. So
sometimes,
yeah, people, let's say you and I come up with an idea, so we would be the startup founders. And if you have somebody like, let's say Elon Musk does the next, we convince him of the idea and he joins us or he puts in the money, then the rest of the money will automatically follow. It's like your talent example. If you get the right,
but not really. That's not where they make money. So what would happen was, if Elon Musk wanted, it's very similar to what you're doing. I know because I've been trying to build apps and we tried to sell. Mm-hmm. We're still trying to sell this technology that you came up with. It is exactly the same. So even if Elon Musk said, I went and I said, I want to do a Howie Mandel movie, and this is the movie, and the movie's going to cost $20 million, and he gives me the $20 million. Well, part of that $20 million, just like in a startup, is you're going to need your programmers, you're going to need office space, you're going to need all these things. Well, I'm going to need office space. I'm going to need my actors. I'm going to need my editors. I'm going to need my, all the technology that is needed to put together a movie. It's exactly the same. But, and here's where it's the same. So now for $20 million, he made a movie. Mm-hmm. Okay. But now how does that movie get seen? And, people do make money. Maybe that $20 million budget was because I had to pay the actor. So the actor's already made his money. Yeah. Maybe the producer puts in a line item where, just like the person that's putting together the money in a startup will take a piece off the top for putting together all this money, right? So they've already into profit. So maybe Elon Musk or me has taken a piece off the top, but now all I have is this movie that's been made. Well, there are different routes to go. So then what happens is you'll see them, most people know that they go to festivals, like they go to Cannes and they go to Sundance and they go, well, what do they do with that? These are movies that are already made.
Yeah.
They're looking for distribution.
Yeah.
So then somebody will put up, the money's already paid for, the movie's already paid for, then somebody will say, okay, we'll give you $30 million for the worldwide rights, or just Europe, and and you keep domestic rights. And for that, once we get back our first dollar, we'll give you, we'll split 20%, whatever that deal is.
Yeah.
You don't know how people make money, but distribution, they pay $30 million. They have to make money. They're not making money yet because they have to make copies of all the copies for the film. So say if it opens domestically in 3,000 theaters, you got to make 3,000 copies of that movie.
That still happens.
Pardon me?
That still happens. They're like physical things shipped to theaters.
Yeah, it's still not digital yet because people are afraid of pirating. They're afraid of beaming that because then somebody steals the movie. That's the biggest issue in the film and television business, is people stealing, and even in digital. YouTube, like I watch, YouTube and Facebook, and a lot. YouTube and Facebook are the biggest as far as the creator being able to monetize, but people steal your material, your music, and then they put it and they try to make it monetize. And so piracy is always the biggest. And I would imagine even in Silicon Valley, people are pirating ideas and technology and putting a little twist on it and trying to make your idea their own. That's why I find them like synonymous. I don't care if you're in real estate, I don't care if you're in technology, and I don't care if you're in Hollywood. They're all the same. So that they have to pay for distribution, but prints and ads are probably twice the cost of any big grossing movie. So the amount that it costs to print it up for worldwide distribution, but more importantly to advertise. Mm-hmm. If anybody has any business, a small retail business or whatever, putting an ad in your local paper costs a lot of money. Can you imagine full and half page or quarter page ads in every paper in every city wherever this movie is going to show? Yeah. And it's on the radio and it's on TV. You're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of investment. And then they put the movie in the theater. They just try to clear. They look for the idea. Now you're dealing with so there was the producer who produced the film, mm-hmm. who sold it for a small cut to a distributor, but you may not see your end until they see profit because they put up money first. And then the last player is the exhibitor who's going to exhibit this. So in order to get your screen, if you owned a theater, for your screen, what happens is in the first week, I don't know what the numbers are because I'm not a distributor, but I'm not an exhibitor. 90% of the money stays with they don't make a lot of money. They're making their money on popcorn and Coke. Mm-hmm. The incentive for them to keep it on the screen longer, like in 3 weeks, every week that they hold it, they pay less. They get more and more of the cut to be there longer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's cut so many different ways. And by the same token, with a startup, I'm going to go, I will figure out what it costs to build whatever it is you want to build. I will go with that idea and raise that money. But even once I raise that money, then I got to put together the team and actually produce that idea. Mm-hmm. How do you make that idea? And then as the idea is being built, there are, twists and turns. And you may need more money for that idea, or the idea isn't working, like the movie's not working, and then we got to raise money to have a reshoot. Mm-hmm. I was watching what did I watch on HBO or on Netflix? The woman that had the technology for the blood test. What is that?
Oh, Theranos, Elizabeth Holmes.
Pardon me?
Elizabeth Holmes.
Yeah. So that was so eye-opening, and that's what made me realize that our business isn't like, you have a great idea and you're on the set and it's not working and they're done. Because to a layman, that technology makes a lot of sense. It's really saleable.
Yeah.
And in reading that, if you watch that special, they also harken back to like Edison was raising money for the light bulb and it wasn't even working yet. You know, you just hope that the money precedes the release.
Yeah.
And then when you release it, I hope this works. You know, and when you release Uber was a brilliant idea. It made sense. But how do we make it work? And how do we make it profitable? And I think they're still working on that.
Yeah, actually, they're announcing earnings today while we talk. So thanks, Howie. So I would say what I found what's different is here in the Valley, people share their ideas openly. And a lot of people iterate on the idea. So multiple startups and people are trying to solve the same problem in different ways. And it's the execution is where the complexity lies here. Like, how do you get the right people, the developer shortage, and attracting talent, keeping them motivated, multiple failures. So the execution is where the art is here. In Hollywood, execution of the idea is kind of, set, meaning there are studios, you know what to do. Like, there are production companies, the sets are available. It's all, the infrastructure is there for execution.
I disagree with you. So the execution, because I think it's the exact same way. We are always, we being in Hollywood, are always chasing technology. Technology has informed Hollywood from the beginning of time. You know, far before I was even alive, you know, the only way people were getting, the major way that people were getting entertainment and information was through the radio. With the advent of the television, then became the television. Even movies, they were silent movies.
Yep.
When the technology came that you could have sound, they already had sound on radio, but if you could add sound to film, then they had the talkies,
Yep.
you know, and then that became the state of the art. There's no such thing as a silent movie anymore, you know, and by the same token, technology is catching up because they're realizing that, you know, instead of this, you know, up until there may be one or two directors that still make films with linear editing where they're shooting on 35 millimeter strips of film and they're cutting it with their hands and they're putting it together. Now movies are shot totally digitally, you know, they'll use red cams on a whole movie, which is just bits, you know, so technology, there isn't a way to do it. And the people that seem to do the best in this business are the people that are innovative. The Steve Jobs of Hollywood are the ones that do much better. The people that are open. In every big industry, you always have people who love the status quo and are so afraid of change and don't want to look for a new and interesting way to do things. And the Silicon Valley, I just see as Hollywood of technology. You know, it's not, but it is. Everything's a show. I'm going to do, we got a great show for you. Here's what it is, you know. All you got to do is press this button and your neighbor Joe is going to pick you up and take you to the airport in his car. It's going to be uber fantastic, you know, but it is a show. I think there is no difference between Hollywood, Silicon Valley, and real estate. It's just, you can all fit it into the same template. And those people who are open to pivoting, and that's what technology does. If you're open to pivoting, you know, one of the most fascinating things I loved about Steve Jobs and what he did was he didn't invent the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he was able to see another need, you know, like think of IBM was far, you know, down the road as being able, as a computer. And if you would have asked me, I'm in my mid 60s, would I ever own a computer? I would never. What do I do with a computer? It seemed like so out of my world. He said, you know something? If we make it, they will come. And it's the same thing for TV. If I do this, they will watch. If I say this, they will applaud. If I'm able to come up with this technology, they will use. Mm-hmm. You know, I met some people at CES this year.
Oh, you went to CES?
For a second. Well, wow. I sent people. But these people, the latest in volumetrics, which is, you know, AR technology. Mm-hmm. So they're set up now in my studio behind me. And I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I set it up and I said, just show me everything you can do. Just show me what you get. You know, they're scanning me. We're putting me. Well, if I was here, can I be sitting at the end of the pier in Santa Monica and at the same thing and interact live? Can you how do we do, well, how does this technology work? When I see the technology, it sparks the same as anybody who was probably shown a film camera. You mean they could stand there and do that, and I can record it, and then I can play it back on a big screen? So then I'm going to make a movie. So if I see this technology allows me to do this, or I can, you watch, it's real slow, but even on America's Got Talent, I do a show called America's Got Talent, which is syndicated all over the world. I would imagine I know they have Norway's Got Talent. I think they have India's Got Talent, but if you watch that, like even now they've implemented, at least in America, it's called the Dunkin' Donuts Save. So when we're teetering and there's 2 people left that are going to go into the finals, the people in real time at home could vote, and you could see 56% of the vote is gone. Well, 10 years ago, the audience was, the best we had was live television, but they weren't interacting with what's happening on the screen. Now that's pretty commonplace to watch, live on Twitter during a show, to watch and interact and communicate. So I think we look to the Silicon Valley here from Hollywood to say, hey, you have this. What can we do with this?
But generally I found, or my experience has been, they're good at adopting technology when it's related to production of the movie or TV show. But in terms of, anything that's outside of that, they're more risk averse.
Well, everybody's risk averse because in our business, for the most part, there has to be a lot of, and also in Silicon Valley, but you have to put up a lot up front before you see any back end. That's one reason. Yeah. Also, the real business here, and let's talk television specifically, but even on YouTube and even in movies, because it's popcorn, these are just platforms to make money in other areas. So if you're selling a TV show, no matter how good the TV show is, if the TV show is better, the producer doesn't make more money. If the TV show is better, the network gets more money for commercial spots.
Yeah.
So it's them. So like even when we were selling our technology, and I don't know if you've talked about it on your podcast, but you have a brilliant technology that allows people to shop in real time for things that they see on TV. When we went to the networks, first of all, you're sitting in a room and pitching somebody who isn't going to make $1 more regardless of how much this technology will make for the company, number one, because they're not profit sharing.
Yeah.
They will lose their job if this doesn't work and a lot of money is spent. So you're sitting in a room where they're predestined to say no.
Yeah.
That's number two. Number one is this. The business model for television is commercials. They're selling ad space. They don't care about the product. So when you go in and you tell them that, the person at home could buy the dress that the Kardashian is wearing, their normal train of thought is the sales department, the person that you're talking to thinks that's a brilliant idea. But then if you look at how the structure of the business is, the guy who's making his money because he sold, a $5 million ad campaign to the Gap, he's going, well, the Gap's not going to give me $5 million for a commercial if they're not wearing Gap clothes on the show and you're clicking on that dress. You're taking it away. You're taking money away from my sponsor.
Yeah.
So, you've got there are so many layers to what it is. There's the making of the movie, there's the making of the show, there's the distribution of the show, there's people making money by giving representing the actor for the show. They just want their 10%. There's fees taken off because I got you together with that actor. You make me a producer and I take a fee for that. Everybody wants a fee, and at most of these studios and all of these studios and networks, it's huge corporate structure that's already built. And in order to, the beauty of Silicon Valley, for the most part, is you're not going to a big structure. You're building a structure yourself. So you don't have to sell it to anybody. All you have to sell is once you get it made, how do you get it out there? hopefully your idea is so ergonomic. I don't know if that's the word, you know, when something is just in the right, it's just natural. People just start using it.
Yeah.
They don't even know. But then again, you have people like that and they don't use it. I can't imagine how many great ideas have gone by the wayside just because nobody's willing to take the chance.
Yeah, you're right. So I see, you know, it's tricky how in Hollywood, the people who come up with the idea, let's say the founders and the production company, they don't really make money if things are very successful. So the studio makes money and the network makes money. In the, you know, generally, yeah. But in our world,
They'll tell you differently. They
but,
do, because our business is very siloed. And what I mean by siloed is everything is very expensive. So if you sold a movie to a studio, that studio would, number one, put out whatever the fee is for the movie.
mm-hmm.
So maybe the movie costs, I don't know, it doesn't matter what it is. Then there's overlap where you might contractually have to use their facilities. So if you sold a movie to Universal, mm-hmm. and then you shot it on the Universal lot, you would pay a big amount for the rental of the soundstage and the lighting and the camera equipment, which is owned and run by Universal. But Universal Facilities is not the same as Universal Studios.
Yep.
So the point is, so maybe the stage rental business is doing great, but the movie production company has put out a lot of money. Now the movie just gets made. They got no money. They don't get any money back until it's sold. So now they've been paying, but Universal Studios sound stages have made a lot of money, but then maybe they won't make money until somebody pays $50 million outside of Universal or partners to be the sole distributor of the movie. So now they see some profit in that. Yeah. But it's there's so many cooks stirring the broth, but that's why an app or technology is easier. But by the same token, we've come up with some things. We had my son-in-law created a little app, and then Apple bought it.
Oh, wow.
But they didn't pay a fortune for it, and we're not seeing any back end, but we're just excited that Apple bought it. So I said, this is the same thing. You know, if I did a little show and then Netflix says, we're not going to give you a lot of money, but we're going to make it shine on Netflix, you know, it'll be your thing. The value of being the creator of an Apple product, or the value of being the number one thing that's being pushed on Netflix, kind of usurps dollars.
Yeah, cool. Congratulations again. That's, you know, that will help you or your son-in-law in getting, when he does his next startup, he will get money easily, talent easily, because he had that under his belt. So
raising money is not a problem. The biggest problem is paying all those people back and turning a profit. Yeah.
So the point I was trying to make was, if it's a huge upside, meaning let's say you make something and you sell it to some studio and you get paid for the production of it, if that becomes like $1 billion thing, you won't see as much upside. Of course, you'll make money and you'll get credibility.
Well, wait. But that depends on what kind of leverage you have going in.
Yes.
You know, there are people that get first dollar returns. There are people that get books that show that there's absolutely no profit. And then there are people that find different ways to see, seeing the upside. Yes. The same thing in Silicon Valley. If you put, what do I get if I have an idea and I raise $100 million? How much of that have I given away to raise that $100 million? Will I see a big upside, or will everybody else see a big upside? And I have the satisfaction of seeing my idea come to fruition.
So in Silicon Valley's case, even if you're first-time founder, like, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, the big names you hear, they were first time doing it. So their first company took off and they are doing very well. But to get these, returns or higher pot or share of the pie, it's much harder in Hollywood.
You think so? You think per capita, more people are making money per capita in Hollywood than in Silicon Valley? For the amount of people that are there with all their ideas and trying to do things, you think most of them are able to see a good profit? I think not.
In Hollywood, no. I mean, everybody.
Oh, in Silicon Valley, no. There's so many ideas.
Yeah. But I'm saying if it's a huge success, if you're a first-time founder and you hit big in Silicon Valley, you'll get a bigger part of that success in your pocket than in Hollywood. Because to get those deal terms in Hollywood, you have to be somebody. Otherwise, you have so many people in the middle.
And you don't think, depending on what the technology is, you don't think that it's kind of scales to whatever you need. So my point being, like, and this is not a good example because I am not tech savvy, but if you needed, it depends what your costs are to get your technology out there. Like, you may have a good piece of tech, but you're saying assuming it already makes money. But you have to calculate how much of that money you can pocket, or what the value is of a partner. So maybe you need somebody to build and run, and maybe you're not. That's why a lot of these big companies that me as the layman see, well, even Netflix and Uber, they're not profitable.
Technically, they aren't.
Well, that's the point.
Yeah.
The point is, so you're saying there's a bigger upside. There's not a bigger upside. They have their costs of distribution and overhead and running and doing it. It's the same thing. You can't take Steve Jobs and Bill Gates out of that equation.
Yeah, but you look, Travis made, I don't know how many billions of dollars. It's still not profitable, Uber. He's out of Uber, but he's out with, I don't know how many $1 billion. Or, Netflix, Reed Hastings has made.
Well, Silicon Valley changed the world as far as investment. When I was a kid growing up, my dad was in the stock market. And in the stock market, when things went public, when I was growing up, it was bricks and mortar. It was, again, it's fourth grade math. It's like, all right, so this building is worth this much, and this is the overhead to run this building. We do this amount of sales per year. This is the profit. That's how you evaluate what that company is. And if we want to build 2 more, this is what it's going to cost. This is how much I got to raise, and that's it. When we had the .com craze, that came in for the first time in the history that I'm aware of, people are investing in ideas. And most of them, those ideas are just pipe dreams. They're not real. But I've never seen I'm older than you, I never saw people invest in ideas as much as Silicon Valley has. Mm-hmm. So the value of something has nothing to do with how profitable it is. It's just how excited you can make everybody around you.
Yes, but eventually there has to be profit. Like, what initially the strategy has been scale, get market share, make people like the service or product.
But what if that goes away? Beta was fantastic. You remember Betamax versus VHS?
Yeah.
So they were first on the scene. Their quality, the technology was better. They disappeared. What happened?
Cost. VHS, that was basically battle between 2 companies. Sony was Beta, and rest of the guys were VHS. And they made deals, and the cost was much lower, production cost, distribution, like things you said. Same thing with Blu-ray versus HD DVD.
That's it.
So there, Sony learned, and Blu-ray became the standard. But it didn't last very long.
Technology, but now, and I don't know if I'm following the conversation fluidly, but the point is that then we learned that distribution was costing a lot for movies to go into theaters and put up ads, and then the DVD business became really big. Yeah. And that was Blockbuster, and I don't know in the countries where this is airing if you had that, but you would rent DVDs or tapes. And then technology was such that the Silicon Valley came up with a way to stream. Mm-hmm. So now you didn't even need the physical DVD or the VHS anymore.
Yeah.
And that created a whole industry of the streaming service. It's a new delivery system,
Yeah.
which we now in Hollywood use that technology to make billions of dollars.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I gotta tell you this. So, that VHS tape, here people went to Blockbuster. So I grew up in India, and when we occasionally, like once a year, wanted to rent a movie, it came with a bundle because we had a black and white TV. So you rent the color TV, you rent the VCR and the tape.
In India,
Yeah.
your technology is far more advanced than ours, isn't it?
This is way back in the 80s. So at
Way
that
back
time,
in the 80s. That's how young you are. Way back. The 80s aren't way back. In the 80s, I already had kids, and
you are always ahead of me, Howie.
I'm just older than you. It's not ahead of you.
Yes. So let's say there are startups today in the Valley in India or Norway or Sweden. They want to be in the entertainment world, or they have a technology that's useful to the entertainment industry. What advice do you have? How should they think about the business model approaching? Because the value chain, as you said, is complex. You have the producers, the studios, the agents. We didn't talk about agencies. They
But
play.
here's the key to every success in Hollywood, and I believe in the Silicon Valley, is get it out there. Get the idea out there. Talk about the idea on any platform you could talk about it. Talk to anybody whose ear you can bend. Walk up to somebody in the street that's friendly to you, and if they have an idea, hear it.
I didn't know you were going to be friendly.
Pardon me?
I did not know if you were going to be friendly.
But the point is that, for me as an older guy, my fuel is curiosity. And I believe that's the fuel for youth, and if you look at the difference between a really old person and a young person, the young person is curious. From the time we're kids, we go to the movies and we look at the magazines and we want to be like everybody else. We want to know what the latest and greatest is. And then you reach an age where you become complacent. It doesn't matter. I don't have to have the trendiest clothes. I don't have to know what the song is. Then you start saying, when I was a kid, that was music. This isn't music. Instead of figuring out why this one that's number one, I don't even get this, but to be curious about it. By the same token, that's what technology is. And there are people out there that have the ability, the power, and the money to do things. So if you have an idea, wherever you could talk about that idea, whose ever ear you can bend, and then that's in Hollywood too. If you have an idea, but you don't have the wherewithal or the connections to get it done, it behooves you to be afraid that you're going to lose the idea or somebody's going to steal the idea is a reason not to do it. And that's the NO that starts nothing. Yeah. But if you have an idea, you got to gamble somebody else doing it. You got to just talk about it, or you got to go, I got the greatest idea, or put up an ad, or put a YouTube thing, or put it on Instagram or Facebook, and somebody will catch it. Somebody will see you. Somebody will talk to you, and it'll get done.
Yeah.
Network.
Yeah. Okay. So when you're making things, let's say you make a TV show or a movie, do you and other Hollywood celebrities, you think about how this content will influence society? The world is becoming a global village, mainly because of Hollywood. Everybody in the world watches Hollywood content. So, a lot of good things have come out of that. Now it's considered fine for people to be gay. They could come out, and that just wasn't, just 10 years ago, it wasn't the case. Or being a uniquely individual person. So I think Hollywood influences society in a very heavy way. So when you make stuff, do people think, okay, what will be the impact of this?
I don't know that people think that far in advance. I mean, I think that most people in this business, and I think also in startups, it's their own personal passion about what they want to do and how they want it to proceed, and I believe my philosophy in life is you can't live everybody else's life. You have to live your life, and you have to satisfy yourself, and you have to be passionate. You have to find something in life that you're passionate about. And I find that most people who do things, and talking to you, who is creating a shopping app, your philosophy about humanity and why this would work and how we, yes, it would change the world, but you're just right. You just should make it and do it. And the satisfaction isn't really to make a better world as much as if you could be responsible for making the way we're living a little bit easier, then to me, that's a bonus. Mm-hmm. But really, I came up with an idea. This is the way I'm really self-aware of how I react and how I get things and how I acquire things. It'd be so much simpler if they would just do it like this. Yep. It's frustrating when you can't tell the rest of it. You go, why? What's the big deal? This is not just convincing. But, we are all individuals. And even in a big country like India and a big country like America, we're not alike. You as a human being are unique to you. And, I look at I've told people about the analogy I have as a stand-up comic. If you go up to a comedy club on any given amateur night, somebody will stand up on the amateur night and just die, just do a horrible job. Nothing's funny. And you got to think like, what were they thinking? That's luck, because nobody's up there on their own fruition. Somebody was sitting at a dinner table and their uncle always said to them, you're so funny, you should be a comedian. Then they get there and they do the same thing they did at their dinner table, and nobody relates and nobody gets it. I happen to feel real lucky that my sensibility translates wider than just the dinner table. But by the same token, I talk about this, about success in my life, in the 80s, way back. Do you remember the 80s? I know you were just talking about it. In the 80s, I was playing New York and I sold out Radio City Music Hall, 2 shows in one night in an hour. So that's 7,000 people per show. It's 14,000 tickets I sold in an hour. And me and my wife were there. I'm just a young guy from Canada. And we're in the building in between shows. And I'm looking out the window onto 7th Avenue, Manhattan, the centerpiece of, America. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking out the window and there's 7,000 people teeming into the street and 7,000 people coming in, and the traffic is jammed up and the cops have stanchions up and they're blocking and my wife said to me, what are you thinking? I'm looking out the window and I'm not smiling. She says, what are you thinking? And I said, I'm thinking these are 14,000 people here for me. In the biggest city in America, there are 10 million people in this city. So what I'm looking at is 9,986,000 people don't even care that I'm here. You realize if you have an idea or you're something, there's always more people who don't know, aren't going to change the world. You need to be true to yourself. You need to be authentic. And those people who, when you read Steve Jobs' book, I don't think he cared about changing the world. I think he cared about doing what he thought was great and the way he would want to do it. And then luckily the way he would want to do it, like I still don't understand the philosophy of what he did and spending the extra money versus what IBM was doing at the time. Mm-hmm. It was just because you had a nicer font. Like what was the broad stroke of the idea that he wanted to make better that already existed? I can tell you now, as I sit here with my iPhone, and that he did. But the point is that I don't feel like he thought he was going to change the world. I think that he was just so stuck on making what he believed was going to be the best. And if you believe in yourself and you believe in your idea, and that goes for Hollywood and the Silicon Valley, just do it. Just do it. Just get it done. And then if the world changes or things are better because of it, that's the bonus. Yeah. But I think we got such a short time on this earth. We just got to do things. The thing that's missing in most people's lives, and I think I can speak for everybody all over the world, is a passion. And we have a saying here in America where they call Wednesday hump day, and the connotation is you're doing all this stuff you don't want to do. And in the middle of the week, you're just getting over the hump and you're almost to Friday, to the weekend, where you can stop doing all the stuff you don't want to be doing. Not to do anything you love, just to not do the stuff you don't like doing because you're paying your rent. And too many people, too much of humanity isn't passion. I said, I don't care to my kids if you sweep the floor for a living and that pays the rent. I need you to find something that you're excited about. So at the end of the day, maybe it's your stamp collection. Maybe you're going to pick up a guitar and just play it, not to be famous, because I'm really passionate about music and I just want to do something that I really like. And I think that that's missing. You know, I think that we grow up in this world, and I don't care what your culture is, you should do this. You better do this. This is the plan. This is how everybody does it. And I think that if we would celebrate our uniqueness and just live our life to the, you know, as long as you're not, you know, crossing anybody else's path or hurting anybody else or inhibiting anybody else, you got to live your life to the fullest. And whether those are the projects you're making, the relationships you're making, the technology you're designing, and also be aware of everything around you. And I think Hollywood is slow, but that we pick up, you know, all this great technology around us. This is an easier way to tell our story. This is a clearer way to tell our story. You know, if we do this, it'll look real. I mean, just look at any movie now, all the special effects and VR effects and Oculus. I mean, these are all telling stories.
Yeah, that's great, Howie. I have, you know, list of questions, but I think this is a good place to end. Very inspiring note to people everywhere. So thanks everybody for joining us. And also, Howie, you have a show coming out on Quibi with one of the Jenners. When is that coming out? Can you tell us?
I don't know. I think Quibi launches in April. I have no idea exactly, but we have a lot. Just follow me on Instagram and TikTok, and I'm under my own name, Howie Mandel.
Okay, yeah, we'll post that on the notes so you can follow Howie.
Thank you.
So thanks everybody for joining us.